Hi, I'm Ariana Ost from New York City. I'm a lifestyle brand designer, elevating the everyday experience, and here I am to bring science behind a lot of what we do and our partnership with Beaulieu of Biosonic. He's a renowned sound healer, life expert, energy worker, naturopath doctor, and we're going to discuss energy work, the power of setting intentions, sound healing, the benefits of a positive aesthetic in your environment, crystal healing, and all things wellness. So one of the things I'd like to start with, John, is asking you what your kind of aha moment is, and we've discussed your story before, which I find fascinating, and I'd love to know how you got into sound healing and that moment in the NYU silent chamber and how everything came to be.
Good. First of all, I was working at Beaulieu Psychiatric Hospital in New York City, and I always say that in New York City, Central Park's the heart of New York City, and Bellevue is like the mind of New York City. And, so it's a crazy environment, to say the least. And part of my work was to research at that time how what we might call PTSD today, although we didn't have the word for it. And in my laboratory, which was then at New York University, in the corner of my laboratory was a room, within a room, and that room was called an Anechoic Chamber. This meant a room without echoes, but it's scientifically a room that's designed by engineers to be completely silent. So when you go inside, there's no external sounds, and in fact, there's no internal sounds. It's just meant to be an absolutely silent environment. And when we could edit that out. When I discovered that room which was just by pure chance it was there, at least that's what I thought. Just to tell you the truth, later I learned that it was put there in the 1950s by the CIA, but I didn't know that at the time. And I would basically said, this is great, I want to use this room to experience silence. And I had learned about it from a composer I worked with named John Cage, so I knew about such rooms, and I knew that if I went inside the room, I was going to hear at least a high-pitched sound and a low-pitched sound. The high-pitched sound was going to be the sound of my nervous system, the low-pitched sound would be the sound of my blood flowing. And sure enough, the moment I sat down, I closed the door, I heard a really high pitch in my nervous system. It's kind of like electronics in the background, singing like that. And I could hear this whoop, 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 that's my heart beating and so on. It was so silent that any movement of my body, anything, I could even go like this and hear the sound of the hair in the back of my arm making sound. So I would just sit for hours in total silence. I was meditating on what was going on inside my body, what was happening in my consciousness. I wanted to understand this from a deep meditative standpoint. And then one day, as I was going into my laboratory from my loft in Soho, I got in an argument with a person in a subway toll booth. Now, I wasn't good at arguing because I'm from Indiana, and arguing over subway tokens is not my best suit, so to speak. And I didn't realize it, and this is what amazed me. That argument had gotten me very upset, but I didn't even know it. Sometimes things happen to us that we just sort of don't know how much it affects us. And so I went to my lab. I walked in, I sat down in the anechoic chamber and closed the door. I closed my eyes. The second I closed my eyes, I could hear my nervous system going. My whole head was just spinning like this. And I was saying, oh my gosh, I'm just amazed at what happened to me, because I had a baseline. I knew what it was like to meditate and hear the calmness in my nervous system. Now all of a sudden I had been really shaken up. And so I said, I got right at that moment, I got this insight, like an intuition that comes in. It says, you can tune yourself. Your nervous system is like a string. You can tune yourself. And it's sound. So I fortunate enough to run downstairs. I got 2 tuning forks. I was able to tap them, put them to my ears, and the moment the sound of the tuning forks came, exactly at that moment my nervous system went from to, and a wave came over me. I don't know how, just a wave. And I realized that my shoulders were here, and as the wave came, I felt them drop, and this immense sense of powerful relaxation come over me, and my nervous system was just humming in this most beautiful tone that I call C and G. And I said, that's it. Right at that moment, right from that one experience and all that happened to me, is where I birthed this concept of using tuning forks for sound healing.
Wow, thank you. That's so moving, and just storytelling and hearing personal human experience makes everything relatable. And if you were able to use the tuning forks to do this to your body, it just means how many other people can have this effect. So, of course, you're a scientist, you're a composer, you're a musician. So you're already an expert in a lot of fields, and you have a deep understanding of yourself, of the body, of music and sound. Let's say somebody doesn't really understand what their nervous system is and what that means. Can you just explain to us how the nervous system impacts how we feel, how we act, how we handle ourselves, and how changing the resonance or vibration of our nervous system puts us into harmony?
I think most people intuitively understand this by their words. Someone will say, I got all wound up today, or I'm uptight. All wound up, uptight. He's a high-pitched person. We use words like this. That's really saying that if your nervous system is like a string and it's just tightened up like that, so you're all tight, you've tightened yourself. And when you tighten yourself, basically your body gets tighter, your shoulders, the visuals of your body pattern go up like this. We see people like this with their shoulders up. We see people moving and tightening and stressed, we say stressed out. So, but if you could hear, you go like this, if you could hum it, it would be really like this versus you drop your shoulders, and all of a sudden that tightness in your voice relaxes and it becomes more resonant. I think that's happening to everybody all the time. Sometimes we just don't notice that we're uptight. And even when people tell you, hey, you're a little high-strung today, you go, no, I'm not. So it's one thing to tell somebody, another thing to teach someone how to recognize it in themselves.
Right, that's great. And a lot of people now view meditation as like a big trend and kind of something that they have to do, and then people almost put some pressure or negativity around it, like, oh my God, I need to meditate. But what actually is meditation, and how do you use the sound to kind of get you there, and how does that work?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's true. We could do type A meditation, which says, if I don't meditate today, my whole life will fall apart. We become addicted to meditating. Something good can also be abused. It could be overused. Meditation is not going to solve the problems of your life. Meditation, when it's done correctly, will allow you to relax and get more clear on what you need to do to solve the problems in your life. It gives you more space. How long you meditate, I think, is really important. I think what's more important is that you meditate consistently. That is, if you just learn, like I use the tuning forks as what I call a 1-minute meditation. So simple, so easy to do, and so profound. When you do that, you're training your nervous system. You're giving yourself the cues to know when you're uptight and when you're relaxed. Because it's one thing to say it, it's another thing that you can recognize it in yourself and how it affects you. And meditation, when it's done correctly, when you do it regularly, you memorize it. So you say your body memorizes this state of what I would call tuned relaxation, so that when you're not in a state of tuned relaxation, you will know the difference. Now, it's very important also that you can't walk around all day in a state of tuned relaxation. I've never met anybody that can walk around all day in a state of tuned relaxation. If I did meet somebody like that, I would probably say they're the most boring person in the world, because you want to at times be more uptight, you want to be faster, you want to be slower, you want to have different challenges and move in different ways. So there are going to be those times that you're going to really kind of get uptight just by having fun, and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, and you notice it, and you can, we call it self-regulate. Now you built into the ability to go, I feel it, I know it, boom, and you drop, and you just do it on your own. That would be ideal. And so then you're actually meditating then 24 hours a day.
I mean, that's very interesting to relate, how we all need stress, and life is about highs and low and light and dark and contrast. And if everything comes to a musical element, how would you relate that to a symphony, and how different sounds are connected to different emotions, and what would make something beautiful?
Well, beauty, we say, from a visual standpoint, is in the eye of the beholder. From an auditory standpoint, music is in the ear of the beholder. Some people like to say life is music. I like to say that, life is music. That doesn't mean that life is rock and roll music, or life is classical music, or life is Indian rock and music, or world music. Everything in life is music. It's just a matter of how you tune in and listen. And when you can listen and allow the sounds to move through you, they're going to move your body in all kinds of different ways. The more different flexibility you have in your body, which is the basis of Hatha Yoga, and the more flexibility you have in your body by moving with sound, which is the basis of something called Nada Yoga, the yoga of sound. You have the yoga of your ears. Your ears actually have little muscles in them that they stretch. So in fact, people who do not stretch those muscles correctly as they get older begin to lose their hearing. Just like people who do not stretch correctly when they're younger begin to get stiffer and tighter when they're older.
So how do you stretch your ears?
You stretch your ears with sound, and you stretch your ears with moving your body. And the more sound you listen to, in other words, that you really listen to, we call it now today mindfully listen. For instance, I love to listen to car horns. Someone says that's noise, and it tightens them, but you can also, if you're safe, you can sit and hear them as a symphony. This was the work of John Cage. So everything around us has the potential to become music. Everything we see has the potential to become visual beauty. It's inside of us that we create it as beautiful or not beautiful. Harmony means to join together. When I join with a sound, I'm harmonious with that sound. Harmony has nothing to do with the rules of Western music or classical music or raga. It has to do only with the listener. Those particular forms of music are called genres, and people like their genres, but the more genres you can have, the better, because it makes you more flexible, more adaptable, and we could say scientifically it really does incubate what we call neural pruning, neuroplasticity, new neural networks, and the more networks you have, the more you can move in your brain and in your body. I think they're the same thing. The better off you're going to be to adapt to the challenges of your everyday life. The more flexible you'll be.
I think that's great what you're saying as far as relatability, but it kind of brings me back to perspective and attitude. So the way that you can listen to car horns and find it beautiful like a symphony, you're choosing